What's the dumbest thing you ever got in trouble for at school? I had a decent sized afro in high school. I would often just stick my hair pick in my hair rather than put it in my pocket or something, but the assistant principal always gave me crap for it. I wasn't punished for having it as long as it wasn't in my hair, so it obviously wasn't considered a weapon. It sure as crap wasn't a hat, so I never knew why he was on my butt about it. Does your name happen to be Jaden, and did you happen to live in VA? Because my friend and band had the same exact problem. In high school, I would bring a little, one-use bottle of mouthwash to school to use after lunch. One day my stomach was hurting and I felt really nauseous, so I went to the nurse. I had to take off my hoodie, so I emptied the pockets and she saw the empty bottle of mouthwash and immediately started asking me questions about drinking alcohol. I explained to her that I didn't like my breath to stink after lunch for my girlfriend, but she wasn't having it. She went and told the vice principal that I was drinking at school and got sent home. I'm pretty sure I was going to get suspended, but I think my mom talked them out of it when she came to pick me up because I had never got caught doing anything wrong in school before. TLDR. Got sent home from school for trying to keep my breath fresh with mouthwash after lunch because they thought I was getting drunk. In 4th grade I went to go pee. There were 2 or 3, I don't exactly remember, other girls in there being complete idiots. They were yelling and being obnoxious. They were by the sinks. All I wanted to do was wash my hands, but then the teacher sent another girl down to see where they were, since they had been gone for a long time. We all got sent to the principal even though I wasn't even doing anything. It was my first time being sent to the principal, so I thought I was gonna die. I was in 4th grade and a big crack of lighting came down right outside the window and I screamed. Like really screamed. I got sent to the principal because apparently that wasn't a mature reaction and got detention. I was a mouthy little crap at school, but I also had some butthole teachers. One would often start his classes off with stories about his day-to-day life, normally pretty chauvinistic in nature. One fateful day he started with the words "So, on the way to work I passed a really ugly woman," to which I chipped in, "Was it your wife, sir?" The teacher flipped, screamed at me to leave his classroom, and threatened a world of pain if we crossed paths again during that week. I went to the library for an hour and kept my head down for a fortnight, just to be sure. Senior year high school. Was walking between buildings to class with a friend. My friend was kind of nerdy and a bit of a weakling. It's cool, we've all got our strengths and weaknesses. I wasn't an athlete by any means, but I was in decent shape and had done a bunch of martial arts growing up. My friend had mentioned that some kids had basically been picking on him, and I thought that it was crazy that there were still kids acting like bullies in 12th grade. Sure enough, these kids show up, 1 leader and 2 minions. The leader gets in my friend's face and starts acting aggressive, so I tell him to back off. The bully snaps and starts swinging at me. The school had a strict no fighting policy. Not only could you get in trouble for attacking someone, they were adamant that all parties involved got the same punishment. Yes, you could not only get your butt kicked, but then you could also get in trouble for being involved in the butt kicking. I hate the admin of that school to this day. So, I know that teachers walk around often, and that fighting will get me in trouble. So I dodge this kid's white telegraphed hooks until a teacher comes by. We get broken up. I haven't thrown a single punch, and taken to the principal's office. We both get slapped with 4-hour detentions. I lose it. I ask the principal what I should have done instead in such a situation. He told me I should have left to find a teacher. For what? My friend would have already gotten jumped. I asked him if that's what he would have done. Would he have left his own friend at the first sign of danger? It eventually came to nothing as my dad got me out of the detention. But I'll never forget that incident, or that principal. Left to find a teacher. Ah yes. Go against human instinct to protect others or defend yourself and frick off like a decorated friend. Librarians were selling muffins in the library to help raise funds for band. I bought a poppy seed muffin and took it to a table and started to eat it. A teacher walked up to me, unaware that library staff were selling muffins, and told me that I was rude to be eating a muffin in the library. She told me to get out, and when I pointed out that the staff had been selling the muffins, she got angry for pointing that out to her. She asked for my name, and I gave her a fake one. After that, I left the library and went outside to eat the rest of my muffin. Later that day, I was called into the principal's office and my behavior was questioned. Apparently, someone heard me give a fake name and told that teacher my real name. I explained to the principal what happened and he agreed that nothing was done wrong. But I still got detention for giving a fake name, and to please that teacher's search for justice, I was forced to apologize to her. Whoever gave that teacher your real name will grow up to be nothing. All of the students in the room had to recite, but my answer had already been taken and I can't think of a single clue anymore. So my teacher pulled both of my lips really hard and swore at me. Oh heck no, I hope that teacher got fired. In middle school after school I was waiting to get picked up outside. It was raining and instead of standing under an overhang I was standing in the rain. I got detention for that. Also same middle school, someone threw a ball at me to try and hit me and an aide told me to go pick the ball up. I told her no because it was thrown at me. Detention. I got into an argument with the daughter of an important guy. I think he was on the school's board of directors or some crap like that. She went to the headmaster and falsely accused me of threatening to hit her. When the headmaster talked to me in his office later, he very bluntly told me he knew I was innocent and that I was like the 10th person that same girl had accused of the same thing just that month. She does it all the time. I know she is lying, but I would be in trouble with her father if I didn't punish you. Don't worry, I'll give you a small token punishment, he said. Said punishment was being held back in detention after classes every day for like 2 weeks, but being allowed to go as soon as the other kids were gone. So I wouldn't actually have to spend hours in detention while making a spectacle of my punishment for the douchebag daughter to feel satisfied. If I lived near the school or had someone to drive me home, I'd have arrived home 10 minutes later than usual, so it would have been fine. But I had to take the bus, and those 10 minutes made me miss it every day, forcing me to wait 1 hour for the next one. So the fake punishment did turn into a real one because I did have to spend an additional hour at school every day just to placate that hoe. In high school we lost a rivalry football game badly and most of the guys I knew in the team and a few coaches were C. So I wore the other school's colors clothing the following day. One of the cuntiest coaches of the team was one of the pay teachers and he flies across the hall to me and goes, "What the heck are you doing?" I said, "I like teams that win." So he made me walk with him to the principal's office while berating me the entire way. The principal and vice principal were like, "Dude, we both used to work over at that school and he's not breaking any dress code. You have 2 seconds to release him back to class or you're going on immediate suspension etc etc." I loved taking pay every following semester because I was now untouchable from that douche. Anyone who has ever had to wear a school uniform are keenly aware of the dumb infractions we would get done for. Shirt untucked, that's a paddling. Boys wearing their shorts too low or girls wearing their skirts too high, that's a paddling. No jewelry except for religious purposes. No makeup, you were made to scrub your face if you dare wore eyeshadow. Boys' hair had to be above the collar. Standing on the backs of your Roman sandals. Oh, you better believe that's a paddling. When I was in grade 4 or 5, a few other girls and I'm a girl, played werewolves at recess. One of the girls put a death threat note in my locker, claiming to be one of the wolves. We had imaginary wolves in our wolf community and we had the wolves we played. The note had fake blood and everything. Detailed paragraphs of how the wolf was going to eat me and drink my blood. There were like 2 or 3 pages stapled together and cut out photos of black wolves that came out of my locker as I opened it. I showed my teacher and she thought it was me. The note was written on Word, with the chiller font, and I didn't even have a working printer. The word got around and my whole grade thought I did it to myself because I wanted people to feel sorry for me or give me attention. The principal had a long talk with me about lying and he eventually called my mom. She told him that I was a liar at home, like every 9-year-old was, and not to believe me. My other friends got notes too except one girl, but it was apparently still me that did it. For some reason, we didn't come to the realization that it was the girl who didn't get a note. Years later we did. If you were the Tanner, this would be a success story. This happened a couple months ago. One morning at school my friend, let's call him Pablo, took me to the back room and showed me his weed pen. He handed it to me but I gave it back right away because I didn't want to get caught with it. I then returned to my seat then got called to the office about 20 minutes later. They caught Pablo's friend smoking it and called all 3 of us to the office. They called me to the office because the teachers saw me hanging out with Pablo in the morning. The teachers were asking all of us questions about what we were doing and stuff. For some reason they let the kid they caught smoking it off without any punishments or warning. But they kept me and Pablo in the principal's office. They asked who owned the pen and Pablo told them the truth. He said that he was the owner and he was also smoking it in the bathroom with his friend. They asked me what I did and I told them I didn't do anything. They called the police and the police interrogated me and Pablo in separate rooms. The police asked me why I was in the office because I wouldn't be there if I was actually innocent. I told them the worst thing I did is hold it for a couple of seconds. They then gave me a ticket and a court date for possession of marijuana and I felt like a horrible son when I had to explain it to my mom. This is definitely the dumbest thing I ever got in trouble for at school. That is why I never will talk to police without a lawyer present. Drinking Monster Energy. My 11th grade history teacher called security and I was escorted out by 2 people and taken to the nurse where my eyes were checked and dilated and accused of potentially being on drugs, but the nurse wasn't familiar with the effects of an energy drink so she couldn't be sure. My backpack was checked by security and a police officer. When they found a permanent marker they wanted to get me for all of the graffiti in the school. When they found my 1.5 inches pocket knife, they wanted to get me for weapons even though I clearly pointed out that the student handbook stated anything under 2 inches was acceptable. My mom was called and told about everything and I was forced to spend half of the day in the nurse's office flushing out my system with water before I was allowed to go back to my classes. My mom wouldn't let me buy energy drinks for months after that because the school scared her into thinking it was bad dangerous for me. There was also a time in the 6th grade when we had a really old, perhaps 70s 80s, substitute teacher. The room was dead silent and I was always the quietest one in my class. The sub suddenly yelled out at me for talking in class when my mouth had constantly been shut. No possible way to mistake me for talking. Although I didn't really have friends in the class, everyone stood up for me and let her know that she was wrong. She didn't really buy it, but didn't do anything else and I was on her crap list for the rest of the day. Frick dude, I hate the drug paranoia in school. Every year it's constant. Also I wish when I was in HS we could have pocket knives. In high school, my ex-boyfriend and I had broken up and he was pulling that whole "I'm gonna kill myself if we don't get back together" bull crap over text. It got worse and more descriptive and my dad suggested I show and tell the counselor so he, my ex, could get some help. Me, being me, did so. Now, I hadn't replied to those texts in bad ways. I had simply said we aren't getting back together and he needs help. Yada yada yada. He did and pretty sure still does have some mental health issues which I hope he's gotten help for. Anyways, counselor and principal read it all and I somehow got in trouble for exploiting his personal problems and he should get help on his own. They didn't do anything and or talk to him about it, but I did get detention and Saturday school for a week. Having shirt untucked. Big thing at private schools. However, in high school ended up at a super hardcore religious school where the teachers were just complete butt bags. They thought they were drill sergeants at basic. One particular douche nozzle would literally walk along the benches at lunchtime, trying to see if your shirt was untucked. Yeah, even at lunch sitting on the bench you could get in trouble for it. One person got expelled. I went over the student handbook and found sweaters with the school logo could be worn year around. So when confronted about my shirt being untucked I pulled the sweater out of my bag and put it on. I was like, "Now you don't know it's untucked, you can't see it." He turned red ready to scream and I said, "Go ahead, try to remove my sweater, see where that gets you. I'll hit you and get you arrested." I got sent to the head monk who acted as principal again. Super religious school, so monk holy guys ran everything and he said I was in the right and nothing could happen. 3/4 of the school suddenly wore sweaters every day and openly boasted about not having shirts tucked in or even on. Couple teachers still tried to be dongs and turn up the heat real high in their rooms, but we endured. I have 2 stories. My music teacher in year 7 didn't like people to sit down before your name was called in the register, but one morning I was really tired and forgot about that rule and I sat down before sir said my name and he was mad and gave me a C1. In year 9 my chemistry teacher was teaching and I was tired and low-key bored as he was just that boring. and I yawned and he saw me and he stared at me and said, "Can you cover your mouth when you do that? It's very rude." And I just replied, "Okay," but after he continued to stare at me I said sorry in a questioning tone. He then went back to teaching. My best friend then asked me what that was about and just shrugged. My teacher then got really mad and shouted, "Do you find rudeness funny?" And I just replied no, but he then continued, "Then why are you laughing?" And I just said unintentionally, really annoyed I'm not. After he stared at me for like 19 seconds I just stared back at him and we had a stare off for 5 seconds. This then became a big joke between me and my friends saying, "Should we go in and look at him and yawn? It's great." I got in trouble because the teacher spelled Arctic as Arctic on the blackboard and I corrected her. She said, "If I'm so smart, then why don't I teach the class?" And then I responded that I would have to graduate from teachers college first. She immediately gave me detention, lol. I mean, you weren't wrong. I got jumped in the hallway while going to the bathroom and the assistant principal saw it happen and I got detention for the whole year. The guy who jumped me got away with it. I have zero faith in any and all justice systems. My very first year in Texas I got in school suspension for 3 days because I picked a bluebonnet flower for my teacher. Apparently it is the state flower and she immediately reported me to the principal. I was in 3rd grade. Texas rules are wild. I was told it's illegal to pick bluebonnets. They made us more afraid of doing that than doing drugs. LMAO. I sat next to an exchange student in English. He was from China. He was having trouble translating a play out of our textbook. I think it was Werewolf. He would ask me for help now and again and I would try my best to aid him, but our teacher didn't want any talking in class at all. Of course, me being stubborn, I would tell the teacher I'm just trying to help him translate. I was asked a few times by the student and I would continue to help. Teacher eventually sent me to the office. Worked out well though because I explained the situation to the folk deemed with dealing out my punishment and they just laughed and we talked about random stuff till the period was over. It's kind of a long story how it got started, but in high school a boy, who I really didn't know, wanted my seat and I said no. I'm very petite, so he said he would just pick me up and move me. He actually made the move to get up and come over to me, so I said if he touched me I would kick him in the balls. Guess which one of us got sent to the principal? Me. I forged my mother's signature on a write-up slip at school in 3rd grade, in my own handwriting, and I spelled her name wrong. What I always did when I forged signatures was make it basically impossible to read, and I would always print my name really large so it looked like 2 people were writing different things on the paper. I probably would have done it more, but half the time I would forget to turn it in anyways, and luckily my school didn't care. My homeroom teacher in grade 7 who would give, in her words, all the boys who are bad detention for claims of us talking during class. Even though most of the guys in class were behaved, she never gave detention to any of the girls regardless of what they did or how noisy and chatty they were. It made me hate junior high with a passion after that, and probably why I didn't give a frick about school after. I don't want to say her full name, but Ms. B, frick you for your arbitrary misandrist balls. She gave every dude in my class detention regardless of whether or not they actually did anything. Just one large group detention for the boys. I remember one of my friends was your typical bookworm and always got upset by it. He was a model straight A student. After reading all these and remembering how bull school was, if I ever accidentally have kids I will make sure they know it's absolutely okay to not listen to adults when they clearly don't have a clue. Got caught with drug paraphernalia, a needle, syringe. I only had it to refill my gag water squirting lighter. Eventually they realized I was a jackass and not a junkie. 3 days in school suspension. I was accused of drug dealing for shaking hands in the hallway. Teacher claimed it was an exchange. Had searches, locker searches, all kinds of drama. It was 6th grade. We were watching a Harry Potter movie in my junior high mythology class and this kid kept quoting the movie out loud, and I told him to shut up. My teacher yelled at me and would have continued if my classmates hadn't come to my defense. It's been at least 6 years since that happened and I'm still unreasonably angry over it. Frick you, Carlin. Carlin, if you read this, I'm sorry. IT wasn't your fault. IT was that dumb B teacher, crazy bus mofo looking frick. Mrs. McNaughton. More like Mrs. MCNOT, a good teacher. Yeah, frick Carlin. In preschool I took off my cochlear implant and closed my eyes, which meant I couldn't hear my teacher at all and read her face. She told me to put on my implant, but I couldn't hear her, so I never put my implant back on. Soon she grabbed my arm and marched me to the timeout spot for not listening to her. That's great, NGL. I drew a two-headed snake and named it Beavis and Butthead. I got called to the principal's office, and they threatened to suspend me if I didn't change it. So, Beavis and Butthead the two-headed snake became Emmett Smith the one-headed snack with a badly erased second head. My parents have framed at their house a detention slip of mine which reads, Kevin has received detention for hitting another student in the eye with a banana peel covered in ketchup. Holy crap, that's hilarious. Someone still threw out my gym clothes. Cheap freaking combo locks. I still had my regular clothes on at the start of pay, and the teacher told me to go to detention because apparently I made it all up. That was the point in my life where I stopped giving a crap. I said fine, I'll go, but where is it? A couple of the other classmates spoke up and told him that I wasn't making stuff up, and I didn't get in official trouble. That was the point in my life I also realized the kindness of strangers. I hated every second of that school, but learned some strong lessons. I got tested for a drug known as Bemora Blue. I was talking about it earlier that day with my at the time SO. Funny thing is, the drug is from freaking Skyrim and the principal could have easily just googled it. So when he pulled me into his office I did just that, then promptly was told to get the frick out of his office, LMAO. I was in elementary school and I said out loud to my friend sitting next to me, he's the smartest one in the class. The teacher snapped at me saying, we don't use language like that in here. My mom was called to talk with me and the teacher. It felt good when I told the teacher what I said and how she misheard it. She thought I called him a smart butt. I go to a super strict Catholic school and one day I got a detention for not praying with everyone else. The thing that makes me mad about this is that principal and teachers don't realize is that some of us are forced to go to a Catholic school even if I'm an atheist or have different beliefs at them. I got in trouble for sleeping. Though it wasn't sleeping that got me in trouble. The history teacher woke me up and asked me a question he thought I didn't know. When I answered correctly he sent me to the principal's office. The same teacher ended up entering me into a geography B without my knowledge, so I had no time to study for it and ended up coming in first place. That sucks. I would frequently fall asleep in 7th grade science class, but the teacher was awesome. Knew I was getting up early for swim practice, and this was the last class of the day. I'd often wake up with my jacket draped over me. Mr. Miles, you were the bomb. I disrupted the class and the teacher claimed she was forwarding it to the school officer to ruin my permanent record. Was probably bullshitting me, but still. This same teacher had her tea out all the time, in a middle school. So my middle school had a dress code and the colors had to plain black, white and red, and I wore a black t-shirt and got in trouble for the shirt being charcoal. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.